Good afternoon. My name is Catherine Brestowitz, and I'm an employment attorney here at the Wagner Law Group. A lot of my work and the work of my team centers around not only labor and employment litigation, but also around HR law and educating and training our clients about issues that frequently arise in the workplace. Thank you so much for joining me as we walk through best practices for establishing and promoting a positive work environment for multi-generational workforces. I'm very excited about this webinar topic, and my hope is that this webinar empowers you with knowledge and resources to better understand and engage your workforce across all 5 very unique and diverse generations. Let's delve into the agenda. This is a very high-level agenda, and we'll go into much more detail as the slides progress. We'll begin with the what, why, and how-to of positive work environments. We'll focus largely on the core concepts of communication, inclusion, and cohesive mission. The core concepts tie in nicely to workplace culture. After we've gone through some basics, we'll have an in-depth discussion of the 5 very diverse generations which constitute today's workforce. You will learn about specific cultural experiences of each generation that may have been influential, traits, strengths, and tips for how to engage and support your workers regardless of when they were born. And we'll conclude the webinar with a top 10 list of takeaways. To win in the marketplace, you must first win in the workplace. This is a quote from Doug Conant, former president and CEO of Campbell's Soup and founder and CEO of Conant Leadership. This quote is a really nice introduction to today's webinar topic. For businesses to do well financially, they need to first make sure their workplace is in order so their employees can thrive. A positive work environment is key to this success. So what constitutes a positive work environment? A job's a job, right? If everybody loved their job, they wouldn't call it work. Well, it doesn't have to be that way. Inherently, a positive work environment can be subjective, but there are some core concepts that no one would refute as being positive. There are myriad factors and considerations that go into creating a positive work environment, but we're going to focus on just a few core concepts: communication, inclusion, corporate culture, and mission. Why does a positive work environment matter? This is especially important in the current job market. The economy is doing well, and the job market has heated up. A positive work environment will help you and your organization to attract top talent. It'll also have an encouraging impact on employee engagement and retention, which will lead to an increased ORI. And at a more basic level, it's simply better for your employees to work in a positive environment where they feel valued rather than feel fear or negativity. Positive work environments consistently outperform negative ones. How can we implement and foster a positive work environment? The first core concept of implementing and fostering a positive work environment is communication. We'll explore communication in more detail in the next slide. Communication is imperative from the get-go, even prior to the onboarding process. This entire webinar could be spent on the importance and rewards from clear communication. Before an employee is even hired, the organization must consider how they are communicating with the outside world through their marketing, advertising, and talent acquisition efforts. As a practice tip, this is one area of potential liability for employers. Claims of disparate treatment or discrimination may arise based on the job posting. Those are claims where not all applicants are treated the same way and may be discriminated against, even if unintentionally, based on their belonging to a protected class. The protected classes under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act include race, color, national origin, religion, gender, age, and disability. By way of example, including a phrase such as seeking recent college grads might open the door for an ADEA age discrimination claim, whereas enthusiastic candidates has less bearing on age. Why is communication so important? Engaging conversations trigger the brain's prefrontal cortex, a part of the brain that enables trust and good judgment while reducing fear and threat perception. Studies have shown that inclusion and a sense of belonging also increase trust in humans. This has been particularly important over the past year, while large sections of the workforce have been working remotely and might not physically see their colleagues. That doesn't mean they can't collaborate remotely. We don't want out of sight, out of mind to impede our collaboration. When colleagues work together, even across generations, they're inclined to be more productive and to take ownership. Communication is integral to working together proficiently. Another facet of communication that helps foster a positive work environment is asking for colleagues' opinions. Asking a colleague's opinion increases empathy, feelings of connectedness, and feelings of being valued, which in turn increase mutual success. Organizations should encourage collaboration and sharing of ideas and experience. Our colleagues are resources, and by tapping into the collective experiences and knowledge, not only are we enhancing our knowledge base, but we're also showing respect to our colleagues and showing that their opinions are valued. The next item on my communication list is timely communication. Timely communication helps to avoid misinterpretations and potential workplace conflict. It's easy to interpret a colleague not getting back to you as his, her, or them not valuing your request or respecting your time, when in reality, they might just be slammed with upcoming deadlines. In that situation, it would be best for the busy colleague to simply respond to the request by acknowledging receipt and giving an estimated day when a response can be expected. Conflicts within the workplace happen both in person and remotely. Remotely, it's easier to misinterpret the tone of an email or a colleague's intentions. So timely and clear communication is very helpful. Expectations should be clearly communicated. This responsibility is particularly important for managers and leadership. For the remote or hybrid workforce, it's important to have regularly scheduled team meetings or one-on-ones to make sure important deadlines and deliverables are not missed. One practice tip I'd like to share is that having a phone call or Zoom meeting can always be followed up by an email to ensure that tasks are fully explained and documented. Chain of command. There will be workplace conflict. Issues of harassment or bullying may arise, and your organization should be prepared. This starts with having a reporting structure that is clearly communicated to the employees. The employees should feel empowered to know who to go to with their concerns. Management should communicate to the employee that their concerns are valid and are taken seriously. Be careful not to provide any promises with timeliness to resolution. Having a formal reporting structure and plan in place for appropriately addressing employee concerns and complaints can help to mitigate employer liability and foster a more trusting and positive work environment. Don't forget to document the steps taken after receiving concerns. My last point on how communication enhances a positive work environment is actually in regards to compliance and limiting your organization's potential liability. Reliable communication helps not only employee engagement, but also can satisfy certain notice requirements. For example, some organizations are inviting their employees to return to the physical workplace. The employees must be notified of date of return to work, new requirements and policies, and safety measures. Next, we'll discuss the importance of your organization's cohesive mission. When people feel that they're a part of something larger than themselves, their productivity, engagement, and job satisfaction increase. There have been many studies showing this finding, including studies through the Society of Human Resource Management and a recent multi-year study conducted by the Management and Organizational Behavior Division of George Mason University School of Business. Having a shared connection to a mission is comforting and breeds loyalty. One of my favorite examples may be a bit outdated, and frankly, it might just be an urban legend. But growing up, my uncle, who was a NASA engineer, frequently brought up President Kennedy's visit to NASA. The president apparently spotted a janitor and asked him what he was doing. The janitor's response was so beautifully NASA mission-oriented. He responded, "Mr. President, I am helping to put a man on the moon." That's the kind of work environment we all strive to be a part of. A mission might be a goal, or it might be memorialized in an organization's mission statement. A collective mission encourages employees to feel engaged with their responsibilities and duties, and to feel connected with the company culture. All these positives for the employees manifest in a huge positive for the organization as a whole. It drives the company's objectives, and it results in greater workplace productivity and retention of talent. It also inherently speaks to inclusion. Find balance with our generational diversity. Be mindful of the diverse generations who constitute today's workforce. Understanding generational experiences and traits can have a huge impact on an organization's work environment and employee engagement. Don't forget that your workforce is not just different generations, right? Your workers are humans, and we are all unique. Not all workers are driven by their generational categories or even stereotypes. So as you absorb this information, remember our earlier discussion of how critical communication is. Talk to your workers, get to know them, figure out what kind of management style works best for them individually. Segmenting by generation alone is a bit of an oversimplification, but as a starting place, let's delve into the various generational cohorts that currently constitute today's workforce. The veteran generation, also known as traditionalists and sometimes known as the silent generation. This generation was born between 1922 and 1945. This generation makes up a small percentage, hovering around 2% of the American workforce, with most veterans currently enjoying well-earned retirement. Two influential experiences this generation lived through was the Great Depression and World War II. Living through these difficult times of sacrifice likely influenced this generation's value of patriotism, being task-oriented and working hard. Veterans are known for their strong traditional views of religion and family values. This generation values respect, courtesy, hard work, and conformity to rules. Also of note, the veteran generation grew up without the internet. The technology this generation grew up with was limited to the radio, and in time, television. So how might an employer and colleagues help employees belonging to this generation? Acknowledge their experience, show courtesy and respect, and offer support and training, in particular with technology, so that this generation doesn't feel left behind. Typically, this generation responds well to a structured management style. Be careful of potential, even if inadvertent, age discrimination. IDEA protects anyone aged 40 and older. The vets would certainly be a part of this protected category. Baby boomers were born between 1946 and 1964, though some folks categorize this generation as being born between 1943 and 1960. Baby boomers were once the backbone of the US labor force, but have since been surpassed by Gen X and Millennials. Baby boomers make up approximately 1/4 of the American workforce. Of note, with life expectancies increasing, the Harvard Business Review has noted that many boomers are prolonging their careers. Baby boomers grew up hearing about the financial difficulties and experiences of the traditionalists, but were raised in a time of relative prosperity and economic growth. Many lived through developments in the civil rights movement, women's lib, and both the Vietnam and Cold Wars. Baby boomers value personal growth loyalty, teamwork, and prioritize their careers. This generation is achievement-oriented and ambitious and tend to exhibit a competitive nature due to career advancement goals. This generation is sometimes referred to as workaholics. This generation benefits from being provided with a challenging, competitive work environment. Praise of strong work ethic and achievements are appreciated. Consider implementing a mentorship program where baby boomers can help to mentor some of the more junior employees. This can help baby boomers feel like an integral part of the team. This generation can be prone to burnout as a result of their ambition and dedication to their occupation. To help combat this, ensure they're aware of the various policies your organization has in place and encourage employees in this generation to take earned time off. Studies have shown that productivity and efficiency increase after taking vacation. The American Psychological Association conducted a work and well-being survey a few years ago. The results illustrate that the majority of employees reported positive effects on their well-being and the quality of their work as a result of taking vacation time. Of the more than 1,500 US employees who were polled, 68% reported a more positive mood upon returning to work. 66% reported having more energy, and 57% reported feeling less stressed. Notably, 58% of respondents reported that they were more productive, and 55% reported an increase in their work quality following taking vacation time. Knowing these positive effects from taking some time away from work should be shared with the baby boomer generation in an effort to protect against burnout. Another tip for helping incorporate baby boomers into a positive work environment is ongoing social education. For example, when baby boomers were growing up, the pronoun they was used almost exclusively to describe plural or multiple people. For younger generations, it is entirely commonplace to use they as a gender-neutral or non-binary singular pronoun to describe an individual person. I will touch upon this in a little more depth when we discuss Gen Z. Generation X. These folks were born between 1965 and 1980. Gen X constitutes approximately 1/3 of the US's workforce. Gen Xers were born during a period when Americans were having fewer children than in later decades. They were the first generation to embrace the personal computer and the internet. Many Gen Xers were raised by a single parent or by two parents who both worked, leaving the young generation to fend for themselves. And many Gen Xers considered themselves latchkey kids. They are the product of work-driven baby boomer parents, which may be attributable to this generation's affinity for work-life balance and autonomy at work. Many also seem to enjoy an informal work environment. Gen Xers have some great attributes. Because Gen Xers are fiercely independent, they tend to be very resourceful, good problem solvers, and dependable. This generation values diversity, technology, work-life balance, and independence. Gen X does not see eye to eye with the baby boomer generation's general mentality that work should be prioritized over all else. Employers and colleagues would do well to provide this generation's workers with growth and learning opportunities. Gen Xers appreciate approachable management and leadership. They also are very independent, so micromanaging tends to frustrate this generation of workers. To that end, management will want to allow Gen Xers to use their own resourcefulness and creativity to achieve success, rather than insisting they stick to rigid structure. Another way to engage this generation is to encourage their skill set and ability to manage multiple priorities while allowing for flexibility and balance. This generation prioritizes work-life balance, so employers may consider offering flexible schedules and the option of telecommuting as benefits to this generation. Keep in mind that a lot of Gen Xers are tech savvy. Millennials and Gen Zs tend to get the most credit for their tech savvy ways, but don't underestimate Gen X's proficiency. Millennials, also known as Generation Y, were born between the years of 1981 and 1996. In 2016, millennials became the largest generation in the United States labor force. According to Pew Research Center, more than 1 in 3 working Americans are millennials, and they constitute the largest sector of the working population. By 2025, millennials are expected to make up 75% of the global workforce. This generation grew up with the internet and quickly evolving technology. Many vividly recall 9/11, the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and many millennials graduated from school straight into an economic recession. Social justice is important to this generation, as is work-life balance. Millennials have been slower to marry, form households, and start families than prior generations. Millennials are a very well-educated generation. Millennials value multitasking, diversity, mentorship, training and development, collaboration, and they seek meaning in their work, and they enjoy being tech savvy. This is a self-confident generation who crave constructive criticism and well-rounded and specific feedback from peers and superiors. Millennials respond well to being provided with structure and clear guidelines. Some enjoy the safety of being provided with specific approaches for meeting goals. Millennial workers do well when they are provided with regular meetings with supervisors and their team. In contrast with some of the more senior generations, millennials do a lot of communicating through technology, and many prefer emails and digital communication to face-to-face meetings. Typically, this generation enjoys high levels of collaboration with colleagues. Similar to Gen X, millennials appreciate work-life balance and respond well to being given the flexibility to balance their professional and personal commitments and goals. I mentioned that millennials seek meaning in their work. This generation doesn't view a job as merely a paycheck. Millennials truly care about their purpose. Most millennials want their personal values and their employer's values to strongly align. The most recent generation to enter the workforce is Generation Z. Gen Zs are born between 1997 and present. They value social justice, climate and environmental issues, diverse skill sets, multitasking, and constant connectivity to technology. This is the most racially and ethnically diverse adult generation. Gen Zs tend to be conscientious about involving themselves with companies and organizations that are also demonstrably committed to their valued causes. An aspect of Generation Z culture is acceptance and exploration of alternative gender identities. This is important because in some states, such as California, it is the law that employers must honor employees' choice of pronouns, whether it be he, him, she, her, or gender-neutral pronouns such as they, them. So how do we support Gen Z employees? Employers and organizations should highlight their efforts to be good global citizens and to speak to the causes that Gen Z values, such as sustainability and social justice. These values should be emphasized in their external branding and in their talent acquisition initiatives. This will help to attract talent from this young generation. In addition, mentorship is really important. This generation was highly impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. They didn't have the same in-person social interactions with teachers or coaches and weren't able to benefit from the structure that previous generations had. This is where a multi-generational, mutually supportive mentorship program comes into play. By way of example, perhaps a baby boomer, we'll fictitiously name him David, is paired with a Gen Z colleague, whom we'll name Keelan. David can share his experience and industry knowledge with Keelan, and Keelan can offer mentorship on skills, such as social media usage and technology advancements. The American Psychological Association, among others, has carefully monitored Gen Z's mental health. Gen Z reports higher anxiety, stress, and depression than adults overall. Some contributing factors are, not surprisingly, concerns surrounding gun violence, immigration-related family separation, climate change in our environment, and widespread sexual harassment and assault reports. An effective stress management policy operating at the employee, workplace, and organizational levels can help to combat stress and anxiety. This is especially true for Gen Z. In addition to stress management programs, managers can help to alleviate some stress that Gen Zs feel when they're put under tight deadlines by clearly communicating and communicating early, especially when there are impending deadlines or upcoming deliverables. Now that brings us to our top 10 list. Keep in mind the diverse generations that comprise your workforce. As I mentioned before, each employee is a person and is not solely defined by their generation. But now you have some familiarity with life events that were influential in shaping each employee and have a better sense of generational values. Each generation has its own strengths, and you should use that to your organization's benefit. This point goes hand in hand with the first top 10 bullet point. Recognize where there might be generational gaps in knowledge, experience, or training, and offer the training to all employees. Don't underestimate the power of mutual mentorship. Similarly to providing training to overcome gaps in knowledge and/or experience, mentorship can help to create a more unified and positive workforce. Again, don't be resistant to tapping into the resources your organization already has access to, your employees. Clearly communicate expectations and culture early on. Regardless of their age or generation, employees need to be clear on the business goals and the specific role they're required to play in these endeavors. In many ways, a common purpose or goal unites us as humans and minimizes our differences. Defining workplace culture through a shared mission. To increase employees' sense of belonging and working towards a cohesive goal, promote your organization's mission. Don't forget about the NASA janitor helping to put a man on the moon. Different generations bring different perspectives. Sharing these different approaches and perspectives increases the overall range of knowledge and abilities for your whole team. This all supports creativity, innovation, and increases ROI. Preferred management style differ, not only by generation, but by individual. Train your management to be perceptive and flexible. Not to harp on the importance of communication too much, but management should have frequent conversations with their employees and get a sense early on of what type of management style works best for each employee. Remember that asking for colleagues' opinions increases empathy, feelings of connectedness, and feelings of being valued, which all leads to an increase in mutual success. Across all generations, we all want to feel valued, and we should feel valued in our place of work. After all, the average person will spend 90,000 hours at work over a lifetime. With so much time spent at work, we should strive to make our workplace a positive one for all our team members across all the very capable generations. Inclusion, communication, and a sense of belonging increase trust. Inclusion makes us feel secure, supported, and valued. These are all strong drivers of employee engagement, creativity, innovation, and they increase ROI. And with that, I'd like to thank you for attending today's webinar. If you have any questions or would like to continue the discussion, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I have included my email address and direct dial on the slide here, and I would love to hear from you. I will leave you with one last inspirational quote from Lloyd Blankfein, who is the former CEO of Goldman Sachs. I think this quote easily relates to all 5 generations we have discussed and speaks to the heart of a positive work environment. Quote, as CEO of a big company, I have to be a kind of champion of the interests of our people, as insofar as their ability to do their job, to feel comfortable in their work environment, and to be able to fulfill their ambitions. Thank you so much, and have a great afternoon.